Hey Grinders, it's your buddy Blenderhead, Jordan Cooper here, showing you my thought process and how I took down second place in the NBA Excellent Eights last night on DraftKings. I know Head Chopper, I know JSU, I know Cheese, they make first place videos. Apparently I only make second place ones. But I mean it still was $25,000. So I think a lot of people out there wouldn't mind that. So always the bridesmaid, never the bride. But here's the lineup. I made 52 lineups last night in this contest. I don't typically do the 150. I mean, I play the 150 max, but I don't necessarily play 150 lineups. A lot of times I play around 40, 50, 60. Really depends on the payout structure. But I built a core strategy, typically on 2 leverage points, and I'll go through how you could process this when you go into LineupHQ or the optimizer of choice, because it's really just a calculator that you program to do what you want it to do strategically. And this lineup, I mean, it actually had a shot at first. It turns out that Kobe White over Otto Porter, that's what did it for this Deep Burn 13 guy. But I was actually tied with another player with the same lineup, so I mean I couldn't have taken 100K to myself. But on this night, I mean we'll take a look at like ownership in a little bit. Like you see that like I played a lot of chalkier players. So Brogdon, Goga, Parker, LeBron, all very heavily owned. I mean, they were some of the top plays on the slate. I mean, it was a 6-game slate, so on smaller slates, I mean, it's not small, but on larger slates you have a lot more options. On smaller slates, you don't have many options. So as the ownership gets condensed, it provides you more leverage elsewhere. So this lineup got 364 and a quarter. It came in 9 points clearer. You could see that the lineup above me was the same exact lineup, just Kobe White in the shooting guard at 1% rather than Otto Porter in a forward slot for 13.2% and leaving 400 on the table, which I could have done. You'll see leverage wise that I could have taken Kobe White, but when Otto Porter's 4,300 and White's like 3,900, Kobe White, his minutes range is much wider. Like Porter, I know is going to get more of the minutes. So when the price difference is only 400, like I think Otto Porter was a higher probability chance at a ceiling than White, but White got hot in the second half, and I think White was as good of a play. I mean, with even more leverage at 1% owned. So like if you take a look at just the night in general, this was a slate where both LeBron James and Anthony Davis at 10K and 9,600 were chalky. I mean, they were playing the Bulls, and those prices were pretty much slightly underpriced, and there was enough value there that you could jam in both in your lineups, let alone just one. So you could tell just by the ownership, 52% each, that more than a quarter of the lineups in this contest, which is how many? I mean, there's how many entries? A ton of entries. I don't know exactly, but tens of thousands had both in the lineup. So now when you're paying nearly 10K for 2 players, and then the obvious value plays on this slate were Parker and Goga, with Sabonis and Turner out, left all the minutes open at center, and Goga was only, 4,200? And Parker, when Collins was announced as suspended midday, like Parker is then underpriced at 5,000 starting in place of him and playing 30-plus minutes. So, I mean, people were able to identify the 2 primary value plays on the slate. So that's why they were 42%, 57% owned. And because of that, you play both of these together. You could even play both LeBron and AD. But the problem comes in big GPPs is that once you put these 4 in your lineup, the differentiation points on a 6-game slate, when there are less options, not an 11-game slate, are much harder to get to because you're going to be in the same ranges and the same positions as a lot of other people in the contest. So with expensive players in these slots and a center slot taken up and a small forward, power forward slots taken up, it would decrease the ownership naturally of other players in those positions in that price range. So like the mid to high range was kind of kind of forgotten, other than Malcolm Brogdon, because once Sabonis and Turner are out, Brogdon became underpriced, Lamb became underpriced. So now you start piecing these five together, something like that. There are only so many options, which made Kentavious Caldwell-Pope much more chalky with him starting in place of Avery Bradley. If people wanted to pay up and be a slightly different, a lot of people went with Kevin Love. A lot of people went with like Shai or Kemba Walker, right? But now once we start getting down into the lower end, it's kind of hard to fit these guys in. Guys like Hayward, guys like Tristan Thompson, guys like Tatum, because it's just like you can't jam both LeBron James and Anthony Davis in the lineup in those types of lineups, as well as having another pacer in the 6 to 8K range. Like, it's easier to get Goga and Jabari in, but it's harder to get both these guys in. So I figured, now if you take a look at my build, in my 52 lineup build, now just to be clear, it's very hard to study me on Results DB because I play all unique lineups in all GPPs. So for instance, on this slate, I played 75 unique lineups because I also played the 20 max, the $4 20 max on DraftKings, so that's 20 lineups. Then I also played 3 single entry, like the $12 single entry, the $5 single entry, and the $40 single entry. I make unique lineups. You don't have to. My attitude is that I want to diversify my risk as much as possible and just bink one of them. I don't have to bink, 3 separate GPPs on the same night with the same lineup. Just like I'd rather have more diversification rather than less diversification. And that's just a risk tolerance thing. You don't have to do that. So I had 52 of my entries. I built 75. So when you see these exposures, like some of them, like maybe, like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope was in 38% of my lineups in the excellent eights. But overall, in my 75 lineup build, he was only 25% because I didn't use him as much in the 20 max $4. So it's kind of hard, and you have to kind of parse through, go through this and go through the other GPPs to get my full build. But there are a lot of GPP players that they make a 150 build, and then they put 150 in the 150 max and their top 20 in the 20 max like this. So it's a lot of duplication. Neither is right and neither is wrong. It's just a matter of risk tolerance. So it just so happened in my 52 player build, I had, heavy ownership on the top value play. I had a ton of LeBron, a ton of Davis, but I didn't have them both in the same lineup. I set up a group. Like, you take a look here. You could go into player groups, and I could set up a group right now for this past slate and put Anthony Davis and LeBron James separately with a 0-1 right here. Which means when I build my lineups, I'm never going to get both in the same lineup. At their prices, I was banking on the fact that when one puts up 70, the other one just doesn't make enough value. And that's exactly what happened. Davis had a horrible game, had 35 points, and LeBron had 69. Sometimes it'll just be 50-50. And at that point, 50-50, both in the same lineup, may not be needed. One of them may be needed, and another guy that's in the mid-range may end up matching one of them. So I didn't see the need to have both of them in my lineup. And also, the byproduct of doing that is because they were both so chalky, I got leverage on more than a quarter of the field that would have both of them in my lineup. So now I already got 25% leverage just by doing that. Like, before I select any other players, by playing them separately, I already gain a ton of leverage on this slate. So I don't have to worry that much about playing Parker in those lineups. I don't have to worry much about playing Goga or Malcolm Brogdon or something like that, which it shows right here. Like, I had plenty. I had 50% Malcolm Brogdon. I had, 32% Jeremy Lamb. I had 34% Jabari Parker, right? I didn't mind the Kentavious Caldwell-Pope kind of chalky value play type of thing down there. I didn't mind because I'm not playing both these studs in the same lineup and gaining 25% plus leverage on the entire field. Now, because I'm not playing two 10K players, I have much more options in the mid to high range. 6 to 8K, that type of range. And there were players that were going to go under-owned because of it. So guys like maybe LaMarcus Aldridge. I mean, he was owned, but I thought, let's take a shot at Aldridge. Let's take a shot at Kemba Walker. Let's take a shot at Gordon Hayward. I was very heavy over on Gordon Hayward for two reasons. The one I just mentioned, that obviously if I'm not playing James and Davis together, I could afford him in a slot, but also the slot that he's eligible at. Like, Goga is power forward center. Jabari is small forward, power forward. Pope is small forward eligible. Davis is PFC. LeBron is eligible at a small forward position. So, like, the combination, and even Lamb at small forward if you want to talk about it. So, because those slots were going to be filled by a lot of ownership, this power forward ownership for other players and center, power forward and center, there was a lot of leverage to be had. So Hayward filled that leverage, right? I also had Tristan Thompson filling that leverage. It's hard to get a $7,100 Tristan Thompson when you're using Goga and AD in PFC slots, okay? And the byproduct also of Tristan Thompson being heavily leveraged and Gordon Hayward being heavily leveraged is that they're also correlated. They're playing against each other. And one I know correlations in NBA are fairly weak, but one of the ones what it increases it a little is that if the game goes over the total, a lot of points get scored, and the game gets close, like the main guys on the team are going to play the maximum minutes that they can, and that's in order to reach a ceiling result for each of your players. You're going to need as many minutes as you could possibly get. So so if Gordon Hayward is scoring a ton of points, the Cavaliers are probably keeping up that Hayward's not coming out of the game for the last 6-minute rotation, or he's not, taking a rest at the end of the second half because the game's in hand. So it's like, who are the most likely culprits on the Cavaliers that I could pair with him? I thought Love was one, and I got him at 11% over here, and Tristan Thompson. But I figured that Love was going to be a little higher owned and a natural pivot for people that were just going to play LeBron and no AD because Love is PFC eligible. So I did play a lot of lineups that had Hayward Love, that had Hayward Thompson. I had Kemba Thompson, Kemba Love. I also used Tatum, Tice. I used a lot of basically, it was a 1-1 Boston player. I didn't mind Tice as like a 2 part of that stack because he's only 4,800. So I didn't mind Kemba, Tice, Love. I didn't mind Hayward, Thompson, Tice. I didn't mind any of that. So I had a lot of those types of correlations in my lineup. Now let's talk about the Hornets. Okay? A lot of people on Twitter, even after I won, was like, what put you on Devontae Graham? Okay? Devontae Graham had a massive ceiling game for 56 points for only 5,400. Okay? Now, the reason I was on the Hornets had nothing to do with basketball stuff. It had nothing. Most of the stuff that I'm talking about has nothing to do with I'm not talking about DVA. I'm not talking about totals. I'm not talking about spreads. I'm not talking about defensive matchups. I'm not talking about are they good against centers? Are they good against point guards? Are they good? I'm not talking about any of that. It's a math problem. I'm just looking in terms of, well, the Pacers are obvious value. They're obviously underpriced with Sabonis and Turnaround. So Brogdon, Lamb, Goga, Warren, all those guys, Sampson even, are all underpriced. So they're all good plays for expectation. So like alone by themselves, no correlation or whatever, they're good on their own. But I was checking a projected ownership, and I'm like, well, if people are going to play multiple Pacers, and that game stays close, then why is this Hornets ownership is so low? It's not like the Hornets are like overpriced. I think the Hornets were about efficiently priced. I mean, nothing that stood out or anything. So you look at the ownership here on the Hornets, and to get to the first Hornet, you get to Cody Zeller, who actually had the worst game out of the bunch, 10%. So all the Hornets on a 6-game slate, like this is not an 11-game slate, on a 6-game slate, to have one team being under, all their guys under 10% owned, especially when their opponent is one of the chalkiest teams on the slate. To me, this was like an obvious stacking opportunity where you could play 2 Pacers on one side and 1 Hornet on the other, or even 2 Hornets on the other, depending on the price. So looking down at this ownership, I mean, Devontae Graham was 6%. I mean, Rozier was 5%. Bacon was 5%. I mean, they have a much better shot at hitting their ceiling than this ownership here. So if you take a look at my build, I went heavy. Miles Bridges, 38%. Terry Rozier, 26%. Devontae Brand, 19%. So this is 3 times the field. This is, This is eight, almost 8 times the field, 7, 8 times the field. I mean, I had a little bit of Cody Zeller, but actually I came in under on Cody Zeller. Okay? PJ Washington, I had 9% of. He was 3% owned. So I looked at this and I said, okay, how can I pair guys like Brogdon and Goga together with a Charlotte player? Now, Brogdon is point guard, shooting guard eligible, so he takes up one of those slots. So he's also expensive. So Rozier at 6,900 doesn't make as much sense with Brogdon. He makes much more sense with Lamb. Lamb's 6,100 and a small forward eligible. You're trying to fit the puzzle pieces together the best way you can while still getting one of LeBron or AD. Like, I had one of LeBron or AD in nearly all of my lineups. So I already have to take out like 9,600 to 10K out of my lineup and then be able to fit people in. So I'm not going to be able to play Brogdon and Rozier and LeBron and another mid-range guy. I'm going to end up in the chalky value range where everyone else is. So I don't want to play Rozier and Brogdon together. Now, who is negatively correlated with Rozier? Well, a lot of times Devontae Graham comes in the second unit and plays point guard. Sometimes he steals Rozier's minutes, and sometimes they play together. Okay? Now, the more that they play together, then I don't mind playing Rozier and Graham together. But a lot of times Graham comes in and Rozier, you don't see him until the 3 minutes left in the half. So, I'm not going to play Rozier and Devontae Graham together. If Graham hits a ceiling, that means it's coming out of Rozier. If Rozier hits a ceiling, that means it's coming out of Devontae Graham. Okay? So I looked at this and I said, okay, I'm going to build another player group, and I'm going to do the same thing. Rozier and Graham. Okay? Now, once I decide to play Graham, another player that is negatively correlated with Graham is Dwayne Bacon. Because if Bacon's the 2 guard, Graham could be the 2 guard too, if they play alongside Rozier. So, if I've already decided to play Devontae Graham, I've already decided, then I'm going to say I'm not going to play any Bacon, right? I could do the opposite. I could have easily said, I'm going to play Bacon, I'm going to play no Devontae Graham. It just so happened that I chose Graham. Really, there's no magic formula in it. I just chose Graham over Bacon because I thought maybe he would be lower owned or something. I mean, it just so happened to be that way. I'm literally telling you the truth. But Bridges also is in the same price range, right? So if I'm not going to play Bacon and I'm going to play Graham instead, who plays in the second unit, then I don't mind playing Miles Bridges. And I don't mind taking a little shot on PJ Washington because his upside is tremendous if he plays well. But I mean, I'm not going to play 3 of them in the same lineup because Rozier and PJ Washington are both over 6K. It increases that salary stack, and I'm not going to be able to get LeBron James or AD into my lineup. So that's why, if you go to look at my exposures, you see let's go to the exposures. You see I have a lot of Bridges. I've over the field in Graham, but I'm like heavily overweight, and I'm pairing them. If I go down, I have some Warren here. Here's some Warren. Here's some Brogdon. Here's some I'm stacking that game 2+1 primarily. So if you even take a look at my lineup, that's not my lineup, but this lineup, Brogdon, Goga, Graham. But let's take a look at other lineups lineup that came in 28th. Here you go. Warren from the Pacers, but I also had Graham, Bridges. Go down, Brogdon, Goga, Warren, and absolutely no Hornets. Go down even further. Brogdon, Warren, Goga, Bridges. Able to fit LeBron, able to fit Hayward, and then get a little off the board at a guard position, which would have been like Kemba or something like that, or Tristan Thompson instead of Len, and a cheap guard, something like that. I'm building lineups based on constructions, based on leverage. Where am I getting leverage in this lineup? I'm getting it in playing Bridges and Warren on opposite sides of the game, and some from Murray, okay? In this lineup over here. You see, I'm playing LeBron, I'm playing Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and I'm getting leverage with my stack, with my playing 1 or 2 guys from both sides of a game, as well as putting the correlation of Tristan Thompson and Gordon Hayward together. and then playing someone, and then playing LeBron as a one-off, playing LaMarcus Aldridge as a one-off. But Aldridge was also, if you take a look, let's go down even further. Can I find a lineup even further? Let's see. I knew I had some Aldridge Parker type of lineups, right? If you look here, okay, you could see my player pool just by looking down. See here, Aldridge Parker, correlative, two sides of a game. Brogdon, Bridges, Goga, two Pacers, one Hornet. Aldridge Parker, I got the Tristan Thompson one off. I got a Markelle Fultz one off. You know, I'm putting together correlations because look at the leverage here. I'm getting leverage from Tristan Thompson. I'm getting leverage from Miles Bridges, which is correlated with the Pacers. So that's what you look at when you study players. You don't have to study just me. Study other top players, like the top 50 ranked RG players on the leaderboard. You could go in and you could look for anyone in any of the contests on DraftKings and look at how they built their 150 lineups, right? And all you're doing in LineupHQ, like on this slate, is you're looking at projections and you're looking and you go, okay, Goga's a value play. I mean, look at his median point per dollar. And then I'm looking and it's like the reason, like why were you on the Hornets? Well, if we go to the Pacers, like right here, like look how much value. Like this is why they were being played. This is why Warren was lower owned, because he actually projected the worst out of all of these guys. But Goga projected the best. Brogdon, definitely. Sampson is a value play, but his minutes flew. Like the problem I had with Sampson is that I don't know what his ceiling is. I know 3K is cheap, but I'm not sure a 3K player that only gets me 22 points is going to win a GPP. So I was less likely to play Sampson, although I understand if you did. And then Lamb. You could even tried Justin Holiday if you wanted off the bench. I mean, that you could have. But now we switch over to the Hornets, and it's not like they project badly. Like they project comparatively to other players in the slate, slightly less. But take a look at this. Miles Bridges was projected the highest out of all these guys. Turns out I played more of them, right? Terry Rozier, Devontae Graham, both at 5.3 medians. P.J. Washington and Zeller at 5.1s. This kind of goes along with my ownership. Can you see it? I played the most of Bridges, the next Rozier, the next Graham, the next Washington, the next Zeller. But look at the projected ownership. It actually was I mean, like this projected ownership was extremely off. Because you would expect people playing Pacers, they're probably going to play decently projected guys from the opposite team. But it turns out they didn't. None of these guys showed up more than 10% owned whatsoever. So I don't necessarily go directly by the ownership, but had I known they were even less owned, I would have played even more of them, right? I was just looking to get the correlation. I didn't really care about the leverage in the individual players. So this is a way that, like, if you notice, I'm not making any basketball stats. I'm not talking about who's going to do well. I don't care about who's going to. I'm not a fortune teller. I don't know who's going to do well. All I want to do is maximize my lineups for if an outcome happens. I'm not looking to predict actual outcomes. What did I see in Devontae Graham that I played him? Like, all I saw was 3 Pacers in my lineup, and I want a 5K level Hornets play. So I had a lot of Bridges and Graham. That's it. All I saw was the correlation. Didn't care about the matchup. Didn't care about who's guarding who or the rotations or anything. The rotations mattered more to make up the groups. So I'm not playing, negatively correlated guys against each other for their ceilings. So you can see that you could use LineupHQ. You could use the projections on RotoGrinders. And you could tweak the projections. If you don't think Caldwell Pope's going to get 28 minutes, I could put him down to 26, right? I could change that so he comes in less. So when you build your lineups, they come in less lineups. I could say, Jakar Sampson, like maybe he's going to play even more minutes, 22, and now he comes up as a great value, right? You could do that. So you don't have to necessarily stick with the projections that are here. You could actually sculpt them in a way in which it gets you the lineups that you want. And then you use the minimum and maximum settings over here to say, like, if I want a lot of Miles Bridges, I may cap him at 40, but I may want him in at least 22%. I start from here, but I don't just fill out all of these just from the start. Like if we do right now, like for instance, I know it's a little longer video, but I want this. I'm completely transparent with my process, so I want to show you exactly it is how I come up with the strategies. Doesn't mean the strategy is going to be successful. Just means I'm trying to use LineupHQ to execute my strategy. You still have to come up with it in your head. LineupHQ isn't going to tell you what to do. If I leave everything blank, like right here, if I just go to LineupHQ and build 75 lineups, like it's just going to give me the number 1 optimal lineup down to the number 75 optimal lineup. Now, the number 1 optimal lineup is possibly good in 50-50s, right? But it's going to be way too chalky and not have any amount of leverage. Has good probability of hitting the mean, like the 50th percentile score. But, I mean, like, take a look at the first optimal in this, right? You get a lot. I mean, Shy was a little less owned, but, I mean, take a look at the exposure sum. 237%. Like, in a large, like, maybe you could play this in, like, a smaller field tournament. Yeah, I guess so. But in a larger field tournament, you're going to need a lot more leverage than this. So I take a look and I go, how much? I'm getting 100% Goga. I'm getting 99% Brogdon. I'm getting 84% Parker. I'm getting 76% Herter. It's like, I don't want to play that much. I don't want to play 99% Brogdon. I want to play maybe 40% Brogdon. Maybe. I don't know yet. And then I don't want to play all LeBron because I have that group set up, right? That LeBron and AD are not in the same lineup. So obviously, if I have LeBron at 91%, you're going to see AD like where? I don't even know if I see him. Do I see another Laker? Yeah, AD 8% because they can't add up to more than 100% because they can't be in the same lineup. So let's say I don't want more than 40% of LeBron. And that's all I do. Let's say maybe I don't want to be more than the field on Jabari Parker, right? So I put in 40s. I don't mind having all the Goga. I don't mind. Fine. Give me all the Goga. And Kevin Herter here, there's no way I want to play 70 for 6. Kevin Herter, maybe in a couple of lineups. Maybe I limit him to 10. I don't fill out any of the rest of this. Because you know what I want to do? I want to build again. I want to see, now that I put in a couple of caps, how much more of other players does it give me? So now I'm going to put in and give me another 75 build. And sometimes the more that you add in here and the more settings, the slower it gets. So just always, if it's 658 before lock and you got a ton of settings and everything like that, mentally prepare that. Because it may take up to a minute to generate your new build. So now we have this new build. So I still get Goga all the way up top. But now because I'm capping a 8K point guard, shooting guard eligible player, it's going to fill it up now with Kemba Walker, who's an 8K point guard, shooting guard eligible player, or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. See, it makes logical sense that if I cap an 8K guard and I'm not playing both AD and LeBron in the lineup, well, the guard spot has to be filled up by someone, and that's why you're getting Kemba, Shai, Markelle Fultz, you're getting Caldwell Pope, you're getting the higher projected guard eligible players. So now it's like, okay, I don't want 56% Kemba. I want 40. I want maybe to match the field, 25. I definitely don't want to have half my lineups with Markelle Fultz. I don't mind a little of him, so I'll kind of like match it over there. Caldwell Pope, I may want in. So I need to have a cheaper guy to fill in somewhere, so maybe I'll put him at 30 just to see what comes up. And now that's all I do. And now I click the build button again. I'm curating and tweaking my build. I already know my strategy. I've already created, like these are just 2 groups. I've already created possibly 20 groups that group players together. Because like another group I would want is not to have Kevin Love and not to have Tristan Thompson in the same lineup. Right? Min-max 0-1. So that's another one. Because I'm going to end up with lineups like that. So now I go to the third build. I still get a ton of Goga. And now I get a ton of Hayward. I get a ton of Porter. I get more Lamb. I get more Rozier. See, Devontae Graham's down at 8% over here. Right? I get less Love. I get some Jokic. I get some Gallinari. Get some Derek White. Typically I would exclude all my players and then only play the players I would want to play. So like Gallinari and Smart and Garrick White, they wouldn't even be my player pool. But here, this is what I do. Okay, do I want a lot of Anthony Davis, or do I want as much as LeBron? So no, I want 40%. Otto Porter correlated with LeBron and Anthony Davis. Maybe I just set it 25 just to see what happens. I don't mind getting a lot of Gordon Hayward, but maybe I don't want 65, maybe the most 50. I don't mind Miles Davis. I don't mind Miles Bridges a lot, but maybe not 45. Maybe I set his cap at 40. And then okay, let's do it again. Understand that I will do this possibly up to 50 times in the hour or two leading up to lock on an NBA slate to finally tune what my builds are. And I'll even look manually through and see if I have any correlations or negative ones that I failed to recognize. So I'll go through here and go, Jabari Parker, Kevin Huerter, LaMarcus Aldridge. That's a correlation. Kevin Love here, but I have no Celtics. If Kevin Love has a ceiling game at 8,800, I'm assuming someone on the Boston side has one. So I'm going to go, okay, so I forgot that group. So I'm going to create another group that's keyed in on Kevin Love. So it's conditional on him. So if he's in the lineup, I need to have a Celtics player, not one of the main Celtics players. Tatum, Hayward, or Kemba. Right? So players to use. One. Use exactly one. Not even two players. I just want one of them. Kevin Love. If Kevin Love's in the lineup, I get one of these people. Okay? Because I've looked through and seen that maybe I don't want to have Parker, Len, Huerter with no Aldridge. And I don't want all three Hawks in the lineup. The max I want in my lineup is 3. Okay? So I could create another group and go Huerter, Len, Parker, Hunter, because I also wanted to play him. And let's say I set that to 2. So in no way do I get 2 of these. Okay? And in fact, thinking of it, I'm going to show a group that I made. Parker and Hunter have negative minutes correlations because remember, Collins was out. Hunter can play a lot of power forward. So if Parker, who's chalky, gets into foul trouble or something, Hunter, who's much cheaper than it was cheap, but not much yet, 600 cheaper, could end up being the great leverage on Parker. So maybe I don't want to play them together. Maybe actually I want to play them separately. So I also create a group that separates them. There you go. And there you go. And then I go to my lineups. I look at this. Is there anything I want to do? Maybe I decide, okay, maybe I got to the point that it's like, do I really want to go 100% Goga? Do I really want to go 100% Goga? If you saw on I am at almost 80%. So I'll set him to 80 to see what that does. See what else it fills it in. So I set extra groups. Tweaked one of these. I still have plenty of these maxes, not filled in. And I build again. I'm trying to execute my already predefined strategy that I came up with my head on the best way to attack this slate by exploiting the field. Okay? I'm not, the lineup builder isn't telling me who to play. It's just using the projections to fit in the slots to build, between 49, 8, and 50,000, have at least 2 unique players, just bare basics. I'm not even setting ranges of outcomes. I'm not setting this. I'm not setting max ownership. I'm not setting any of that, right? I'm telling it what to do. So if we take a look at these lineups now I'm down to 80% Goga. But I'm getting a lot Tatum now. I'm getting a lot of Rozier. I'm getting as much as I want with Lamb and Brogdon. As much as I want with a lot of these guys up here. Let's take a look at Devontae Graham. Okay. He's in 8 lineups. That's no big deal. I got some DeMar DeRozan. I don't want DeMar DeRozan. Gone. I just X him out of my pool. Danny Green, Justin Holland. I know I said Justin Holland may be a play. No, I don't want him. I don't want Gallinari. I don't want Gay. I don't want Bruno Fernando. Right. I want a little bit. PJ Washington's only 1%. I want more than 1%. I want at least 6%. The guys that aren't projected well typically come at the bottom. You have to boost them up because the lineup builder is going to go by the highest optimal projection. So it's going to boost them up. TJ Warren doesn't project as well as the other Pacers. So I'm going to boost him up to 10. I'm down here. Tristan Thompson doesn't project as well, but he's correlated with Hayward. I want to make sure I get enough of him. So I'm going to put 12 here. I just want to see what happens. Jakar Sampson, I said before, I didn't like him. X amount. Gone. So now I'm going to build and see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen. I get a sense of what's going to happen based on the positional eligibility and the price of the players. But I'm going to see what happens. Okay, we got build 6. And you keep all of your builds in LineupHQ. I could go back to the first build if I want. I could go here. I could delete builds. I could delete... Hey, maybe I don't want any of these 5 builds. It's taking up too much of my screen. I could click on delete old builds and done. All of them are gone at once. So this new build has a lot more Aldridge, a lot more Rozier. Still Tatum's up here at 40%. We go through here. Let's go down to where, okay, PJ Washington. Since I boosted him, he's getting 7%. Warren, I boosted him, he's getting 11%. So now, obviously, if I'm getting 11% Warren, I may get a little less on the other Pacers, right? I'm getting Brogdon at 40, but it came out of Lamb a little, okay? So maybe I want Tatum and Hayward. I mean, I'm getting a lot of these Celtics. Maybe I don't want Tatum and Hayward in the same lineup because they're 7,700 and 6,400. That's expensive for both of them to have a ceiling game at the same time. It could happen. So I now add another group. Tatum, Hayward. Maybe Tatum, Hayward, and Walker even. Maybe I do that. I know in one of these groups, I'm playing, if Love's in the lineup, I'm playing at least one of them. But I'm not playing more than one of them in a lineup. So now that I've limited them in a group, I'm not going to change any exposures. I'm expecting Hayward, Tatum, and Walker's ownership, my exposure, to go down because I'm now limiting them to 1 per lineup. Well, maybe that's the wrong button. There you go. So these should come down. I may still have too much of them, but it should come down. So let's go to the next build. Okay. Hayward, 43%. Walker, 31%. Tatum. Where's Tatum? Smart. Tatum, 13%. Because he's the third best projected player. So he's going to take the hit more than anyone else. So if you see here, maybe I don't want Pirtle. Get out of here. I don't want Smart. Right? I don't want Aaron Gordon. Get out of here in my builds. I'm just Xing out players. Who cares? I don't want them. They don't go along with my strategy. I'm getting Lamb. I'm getting Brogdon. I'm getting what I... Look at the Pacers stack. Look at the Hornets. Coming up. My strategy's coming through. My strategy's got... I got some Caldwell Pope because I need him. I got some Jamal Murray, just like I showed you before. I'm getting some TJ Warren. I'm getting some Devontae Graham. But I'm getting so much of Rozier. Like maybe I want the cheaper pieces like Bridges and Graham more. So I'm going to cap Rozier at, let's say, 35%. So now that I cap Rozier at 35%, I should be getting a little bit more of the other Hornets. Let's see if that happens. Pretty quick early in the day when I'm recording this. Sometimes by luck it gets a little slow. You got to prepare for it. Okay. So here you go with the Pacers. You get a lot more Miles Bridges. You still get the 35% Rozier, and Devontae Graham got bumped up from 13% to 23% because of the cap that I made on Terry Rozier. Now take a look at this build with these exposures. Pretty kind of close, right? Goga, Brogdon, Lamb, Parker, Bridges, got Kemba up there, got Aldridge up there, got Rozier up there, got my little Devontae Graham, got my Warren up to a certain level. Do you see? I'm executing a strategy. I'm making inputs and executing a strategy and building and building and building and building from there until I see and checking some lineups and going, did I miss anything? Do I want Brogdon and Lamb in the same lineup? Maybe I don't. Do I get a correlation in here? I'm playing Jabari and LaMarcus Aldridge. That's fine. I'm playing Tatum by himself. I don't mind that. So I'm looking through, going, did I miss anything? I'm playing Hayward by himself. I'm playing Brogdon here with Devontae Graham. Otto Porter and LeBron go together. Shai is a one-off. Perfectly fine. This is my process. I've not looked at I've not looked at anything but projections. I've not looked at a DVA tool. I've not even looked at the totals and the spreads of the game. It's already factored into the projections. If I want to change them, I could change them, right? Oh, I think some team is going to be blown out, so LeBron only plays 32 minutes. Then put in your projections. You're going to get less of them then, right? That's all you have to do. You don't have to go directly by the projection, but the projection is typically the median outcome, right? And you're typically aiming towards median outcomes that are higher. That's why if we took out and we went to this Denver-Miami game, look at these low medians against Denver, right? Take a look at Denver. Like Millsap was a pretty decent play, even Grant, and he did well. Barton, look at the people. Oh, wouldn't you know? The people that did well were towards the top in the projections, right? And you go to Miami, and no one did well. Kind of happened that way, right? Denver kind of blew them out. So this is LineupHQ. You could import your own projections. Like you go here, and you could upload your own projection. You don't have to even go by these. But these are the inputs alongside with your exposures that it's going to be optimized for, right? You could set it so its range of outcomes is heavy, so the projections are just all over the place. You can make it only a little. You can make it 0 if you want. But this is what you get to do, and you get to study builds of other players. I could go in here, and I could type in, let's say, Squirrel Patrol. He's a very good GPP player. Let's see what he did. Squirrel Patrol. Now we can take a look at his build. Parker, James, Gogo, Lamb, Davis, Aldridge, Zeller. There you go. That's how he lost money. Dud Zeller game. He had a lot of Bruno Fernando in case, the center situation went a different way. He still had Devontae Graham. He had Marvin Williams. Looks like he was kind of doing a little bit of what I was doing. Had a little under the field on Brogdon, but way over the field on Lamb. And then trying to get the Hornets player right. But obviously, since he was playing a lot of Anthony Davis, like his exposure to Hayward, I don't even know if he had any exposure. He had Kemba Walker exposure because he was guard eligible. Because all these other guys are forward eligible. So he didn't have any Hayward, Tatum, any of those guys. But that was the strategy that he was looking to implement. Right? I think his strategy was just as viable as mine. He was looking to get leverage with Cody Zeller. He was looking to get leverage by having a lot more Bruno Fernando, by having a lot more Devontae Graham, having double the field of Jamal Murray, having way over on Marvin Williams, hoping the game went small, and Jakar Sampson. That's what he did. Finding leverage, using correlation. It's not a matter of figuring out who's going to do well today, like you're a fortune teller. It's about maximizing your lineups for when a certain outcome happens. So I hope you learn a little bit more about my process, about a lot of top players' process, how to think in the mindset that DFS is a game. The players are just the pieces of the game. And especially in large field GPPs, that it's about leverage and correlation and the probability of ceiling scores for their salary, more so than is a guy gonna do well, which without a time machine, no one would know. So for RotoGrinders, I'm Jordan Cooper, your buddy Blenderhead. Until next time, I finish in second place.